This podcast is sponsored by Tusk, an open source non-ICO crypto project powered by community. Check them out on the web at tusk.network. That's TUSC.network. The Rob McNealy program is the nexus of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and entrepreneurship. Now, welcome to the program. Today, I am real excited. We're going to have a really good show. I am talking to someone who I've been a fan of for a long time, and that's Crypto Wendy. She is a very well-known, I don't like to use the word influencer, but she's an influence in the crypto world. So Wendy, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me on, Rob. I know we were supposed to do this a while ago, and I know that we were both at Las Vegas Blockchain Week. I was there with my husband and baby, and I was running around like a crazy person. You were too, so we didn't get too much. I know you're chatting with my husband, but we didn't really get to sit and talk like I wanted to. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you.
Well, good. And actually, I really like your husband. You know, you can tell a lot about people just based on their family.
Yeah,
That's been my...
I totally agree. Yeah, he's a good guy, and he's, even though he kind of likes to be by himself and whatnot, he is a people person, believe it or not. So
I'm a people person that hates people, so it's very complicated. So I'm a misanthrope, but I like people. I think what that means is I really like some people a lot, but most people not.
That makes sense.
And I sound like a big jerk, but
no, not at all, because they're, especially in crypto, if you want to just kind of look at crypto, that's a very diverse community, and you get a lot of different intense personalities, and a lot of times you just don't want to deal with some of them. But you know, I feel it's good to try to include people and try to be cool with people and whatnot, and sometimes it just can be a little hard at times.
I absolutely agree. So tell us a little bit about your background. How'd you get into crypto?
So I actually initially heard about Bitcoin in like 2011, 2012. I had a family member come to live with my husband and I, and he was super into gaming. I want to say he was like 16 at the time. He was super into gaming, super into tech. And he's like, can I borrow your guys' credit card to buy Bitcoin on the internet? And I'm like, no, because I don't know what this is, and it probably is a scam. And we were trying to save up for a house. And I'm like, I know for a fact that when you lend somebody money, you're not supposed to accept it back or expect it back. So I just like, you know what, we need to save, whatever. So I was like, no. And then I kept hearing about it on libertarian radio. And during that time, I was interested in like making a change with my life. I worked in healthcare for 7 years prior, and I was at my old company, which was the largest HIV/AIDS nonprofit in the world. And I was there for 10 years in total, and I really wanted to change because at that time my commute was, it was 3 hours round trip, 4 days a week, and I didn't see my baby girl. So I would wake up at 5, leave the house by like 6:30, take her to my mom's, and then get to work by like, I want to say by like 8:30. And then my shift was from like 9 to 7. And then I wouldn't get home till like 9 o'clock. So I had a newborn. I was still nursing and pumping, doing all that fun stuff. And I never saw, 4 days out of the week, I would barely see my child. So, and I was in school part-time the whole time while I was working. And I just told my husband, I was like, I'm going to quit. I'm going to start looking at some entrepreneurial stuff. I had a pretty successful eBay store selling used designer clothing. The income I used to pay for community college. And he's like, okay, fine. And so I did. And then I bought my first part of a Bitcoin, because you don't have to buy a whole entire Bitcoin. Most people don't know that. And then I quit my job and started doing that. And then a couple months later, my husband quit his job and opened he got his contractor license and started a business. So we're both just kind of here. And yeah, that's how I got into crypto. And then once I first got into crypto to make money. And once I realized that there was more than just making money, I figured that I can learn the trade, because I saw people posting content and stuff on Twitter. And so I kind of taught myself how to navigate trading just a bit. And then things just kind of exploded from there, as far as, having a YouTube, doing events, and all the other million things I do in the space.
So what I like about that story is that it wasn't just about making money. It was about changing your life to take control of your time. And I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I loved what I did in healthcare, because I like to help people, especially people that do need help. And a lot of people that, do live with HIV/AIDS, I like to call them kind of the underdogs of society, because people don't understand how hard they had to fight to get a lot of the rights that they have today, and a lot of the healthcare and everything with medication. I've had so many clients that shared really cool stories with me, but at the end of the day, I wanted to be happy and, spend time with my family. And I wasn't able to do that at my old job just because of the commute. And yeah, it was good. But I've always kind of had like an entrepreneurial side to myself. Like that's why I started the eBay store, because I worked in a thrift store prior, and I was like, oh, you can make money from selling, finding designer goods that thrift stores are selling for like a couple bucks, and I can flip it on eBay. So I went ahead and did that, and that was fun for a while, and just kind of been focusing on crypto since then, just because I feel there's a lot, such a new industry. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to make money and to kind of grow and to kind of help other people. And at the end of the day, even though we may say that people are a pain in the butt, it is good to give back and help when you can. And even if you can, my thing is if you can change somebody's life just by smiling at them or being kind to them or showing them something, then it's essentially a win for me.
Well, I agree with that. And I think that's kind of why we looked at crypto ourselves about, going and doing an actual project, was because when we started investing in crypto, we saw the amount of not only scams, but ignorance among people. And we saw a lot of people lose a lot of money just because they didn't know any better. And that's what we originally started our original project about when we were a token, was to try to help educate people in the crypto space. And then it went on and got a lot of legs, and it morphed into something a lot bigger and different than we attended over the last 2 years. But that was where we came from as well, is that my wife and I have been very entrepreneurial for decades. Since, we've been married 19 and a half years, and I was an entrepreneur before I even met my wife. And so when we were dating, she was helping me on little side hustle projects back in the day. And so we always worked good together, but we learned a lot about business over the last 2 decades. And, a lot of that just how to assess risk. I think that's the one thing that I think is a skill that entrepreneurs have, that people that tend to have never run a business have a hard time with. And I think investors, especially with early stage investors, have that same problem, is that how do you mitigate risk when you're looking at an early stage startup? And most people who have never had experience running a business don't really have those skills, because the only way I know you can learn how to mitigate early stage startup risk, or at least assess it, is to actually run a business. And so when we came into crypto, we started looking at some of the early projects, and we're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's interesting. And then that was before the crash. And then it was kind of funny how many of the projects that we said that's going to fail all did. And so it was just interesting. And so that's where we came from. We wanted to see people not lose their money. And unfortunately, lots of people have lost lots of money with crypto.
Yeah, when I first started, I invested, my best 3 investments were probably, like, when I first started, when I knew nothing about it, was like probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin, because, they tend to hold their value a little bit better than some of the smaller cap stuff. And what a lot of people don't understand, and I think I don't know if it's American culture, I don't know what the deal is, but a lot of people don't know how to budget. I want to say there was a study done that showed that over 50% of Americans didn't have $500 in the savings account to pay for like a flat tire or whatever. And I grew up very poor after my father passed away. My mom, instead of going back into the workforce, she stayed home with us and me and my 2 sisters to make sure that we, that we were okay and whatever. So one thing my mom did teach us, though, is about budgeting and the importance of saving and putting away a little bit of money and creating a budget. So when I invest in something, when I'm investing in crypto or when I'm trading, I understand that whatever I put out there to invest doesn't mean that I'm getting a 10x back or that I'm getting something back. And I think a lot of people, they see crypto as, oh my God, I can make all this money. But they don't know how to mitigate risk, like you said, and they're just assuming that they can get it back. And when they don't get it back, they start to kind of blame it on other people. And there's just the ecosystem is just kind of crazy now. And I think it's probably because of the lack of regulations, which I'm kind of on the fence about regulation, just because, everybody's out here calling everybody a scam, but then you're in crypto for decentralization and here for your supposedly freedom of speech and whatnot, but then you can't take responsibility for your own actions. And that's kind of part of being a libertarian. So it's kind of, I feel like we need some sort of regulations because people are stupid. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest person, but I know enough to know that if I'm going to invest in something that I could lose all my money. So don't take my money that I'm going to use for my mortgage to toss it all into a project, a low cap gem or whatever, or to margin trade with. And I also understand that most of these crypto projects, they're all entrepreneurs, and even though they have good intentions when they set out, many of them may not know how to run a business. And even taking a step outside of crypto, most entrepreneurs, they fail. most small businesses fail. And a lot of people don't take that into consideration. And another thing is that a lot of these crypto projects are claiming to do all these great things, but at the end of the day, the people that are in crypto now are pretty tech savvy for the most part. And the majority of people in the world are not tech savvy. They're not engineers. They're not mathematicians. They don't know about TA. They don't know about tech. They don't know about all of these things. So if you're making platforms that are built for people that are tech savvy, you're missing a whole part of the market share because most people are not tech savvy.
Couldn't agree with you more on all those parts.
I talk a lot.
Well, so do I. So we'll get along well. So I'll start off with the one thing that hit home with me is the fact that most Americans, or at least I think it's just Western culture, we're materialistic, consumerist, and we are financially illiterate.
Correct.
And that stretches all demographics. I can tell you how many people that make really, really good incomes. I know doctors and lawyers that are living paycheck to paycheck because even if they get an increase in the amount of money they make, they just spend more money. They don't put it away or invest it, save it. And that's a really, really big problem with our education system, I think. I'm a big believer of the Dave Ramsey, kind of program where the Financial Peace University stuff. I think it's a great start for people who want to get out of debt and learn, how to manage their money, because once you're out of debt, you really have a lot more freedom to invest. And if you want to invest in things like high risk investments, like crypto is a high risk investment at this point, then you have that ability to do so, and you're less likely to, be out on the street if you make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, my portfolio, I do have quite a bit of money in crypto, but I also have a property. The home my husband and I live in, and then we also have like 401ks and different type of stuff. And I love that you said Dave Ramsey, because I love Dave Ramsey. My husband and I, we didn't go through the Financial Peace University, but when I first met my husband, he liked to spend money, and I came from a really, I grew up poor. I came from a very financially conservative family. My mom was like, you get $100 for Christmas, $100 for birthday, and all my friends had brand new cell phones, all these things. So I didn't have that growing up. So I knew how to save, and I knew that I wanted to buy a house and stuff. So I kind of pushed my husband to get into Dave Ramsey, and he would listen to Dave Ramsey every day on the way home from work, from his commute. And we both got out of debt. I think I didn't have a whole lot of credit card debt, but I did. Because I was, when you're young and you're stupid, you do dumb things. But he had some debt that he was able to take care of, and then we were both debt free. And then we were finally able to go on vacations and to do some really cool things. But then ultimately we're saving to buy our home, and we were able to buy a home. And yeah, and we have money in the bank. So God forbid there's an emergency. I want to say we got 3 months of emergency money. We can cover everything and not have to worry about oh my God, how are we going to pay our mortgage? How are we going to take care of our daughter? It's important to have those things. And then if you have additional money, like you said, you can invest it or go on trips or do whatever it is you want to do.
Well, it's surprising me, and it shocked me to see how many people that are in crypto that have absolutely no investments outside of crypto. Yeah, whether it be 401ks or rental properties or anything. And to me, I'm not dissing anyone who wants to invest in crypto. If you have the tolerance for the risk and you have the appetite for it, I fully support investing in crypto. However, in my opinion, as someone who's financially fairly conservative, and I'm a big believer in being financially literate, that you should probably have all your other bases covered before you start dabbling in high risk stuff.
No, I agree, because crypto is really volatile. And one of the things that makes it kind of scary when you're investing in it is the lack of regulation from the government. The government can come in at any time and say, because I know Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're not classified as a security. I also have a YouTube channel, and I talk about, my favorite segment is to kind of have attorneys come on, crypto attorneys come on and kind of go over what's going on with the law, because at the end of the day, I feel like they're the real experts. They're the ones that are able to interpret this stuff the best for us. But the government come in at any time and say, this is illegal. You guys can't do it anymore. And if that happens, you can lose all your money.
Well, it was interesting because my day job, I'm an expert witness, so I know lots of attorneys, and my brother-in-law is an attorney. And before we launched, I took a deep dive into securities law, just personal research, because before we launched, I wanted to make sure we weren't in illegal security, and I wanted to find out where all the edges were around that. And I was shocked at how many lawyers were kind of pitching this whole utility token thing, right? That was the big thing a couple of years ago. And I'm not an attorney, but I did a lot of reading, and I even called the SEC myself and talked to their attorneys directly. And there's no such definition of a utility token, right? And everybody was saying you can launch this as a utility token and it's not a security. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I found something in my digging, Wendy. I found that back in the .com 2000, 2001 era, the SEC prosecuted multiple internet companies for giving away free stock, because we gave our crypto away originally via faucet. So we didn't sell any tokens. We didn't do an ICO or anything like that. And I didn't want to be a security. But what we were planning on doing is maybe making an internet, basically an email database, a marketing database. That was kind of what we were thinking, that, okay, we can reach out to these people and basically provide them more of our educational content. We weren't trying to sell it. We just wanted to be able to communicate with them. Because when you have a token on Ethereum, you can't actually communicate with anybody, which seems ridiculous to me, that there's no communication channel there, but that's just me. But when I found out that the SEC said that if you create if you have someone give you personal information like an email address and you give them a free stock, it's still considered under the Howey test an investment of money.
Right.
And I went and talked to a couple of attorneys and they didn't even know that. And I said, if I can do a few Google searches and, look up some things over the course of a couple of days and figure out that there's some precedent in law about this, and you don't know that, then I'm not talking to the right attorney.
Right.
And so for our point of view, we work really hard and diligently to abide by the law, because I think you hit the nail on the head, is that it's called regulatory risk when you're dealing with startups. And if the project you're looking at and you want to invest in is not paying attention to regulatory risk, then there are bad investment probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy that you're talking to attorneys and they weren't able to answer that for you. But everybody that I've had on my show, at least, they've been very knowledgeable and they've been pretty helpful. So I try to send them to people that need them when it's needed. So that's kind of wild, though. It's scary at the same time. And that also goes to prove that just because somebody does have a degree doesn't mean that they are good at their job.
Absolutely. And that was 2 years ago. So I think that there's a lot more knowledge, and I think there's a lot more guidance that's been out since then. But at the time, in crypto circles, it's like anything else. Like, you get the people coming out of the woodwork to catch a wave, right? They want to be in the leading edge of something new. There's a lot of people that were pitching that and taking a lot of ICO money for that bad advice. And looking back now, I'm glad we went against the grain, because we were advised by numerous people, yeah, just do an ICO. You can raise a bunch of money, do whatever you want. It's all good. It's like the Wild West. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me.
No.
I'm just going to put my business guy hat on, right? And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense, and on top of that, I'm not that lucky. So I'm not going to get rich quick overnight. I never thought, I just feel like I'm not ever going to get rich quick overnight. So I just assume it'll just be a lot of hard work if I ever get there, right?
That's okay, though. Yeah, hard work is good.
I agree. And so I think it's interesting, how much the landscape's changed just in the past 2 years in crypto. As a project, you see things a lot differently too. I know you're in the space as well, but when you're dealing with trying to negotiate with exchanges and dealing with the scammers and it's pretty intense, how much rot is still in crypto.
Oh yeah. Right. And I honestly, the community drives me crazy in this sense, is that everybody's a scammer. Like, I'm a scammer because I have a YouTube channel. I'm a scammer because I trade. I'm a scammer because I do disclose sponsored content, which is part of marketing. I've been called all different types of names, but at the end of the day, it's like kind of crazy. It's like, not just because you lost money or just because you don't like someone doesn't mean that you're a scammer. So I think the word gets thrown around a lot. I do think there are bad actors in the space. There's bad actors in every space. Like, if every profession you go to, not everybody is good and pure. Like you look at the churches, you look at tech, you look at even people from McDonald's. Like, no, not all people are good people. But I think in crypto, it's a little bit more prevalent, just because there is you can make a lot of money very, very, very fast.
I think it's the part of this, the anonymity too. I think When I'm talking about, I don't use the word scammer lightly by any stretch. I use it for people that are committing illegal acts or immoral crimes. So I'm not one of those guys like a Bitcoin maxi that says anything that's not Bitcoin's a scam. I'm not one of those guys. In fact, I don't like those guys. But I think with crypto, I think because of the quote unquote trustless nature of crypto, it does tend to lend itself toward the people that are trying to take advantage. And it's funny, even today, I got like 3 people this morning on Telegram trying to hit me up for stuff. And I'm like, just go away. And,
Yeah.
and so that's the tough part, because that's actually in a lot of ways I think holding back the industry, and because it keeps normies out. And what do
Yeah.
you think about that?
So I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about what's kind of hindering crypto. I think one of them is the lack of regulation, because people they just don't know what's going on. I think another thing is the fact that it's very heavily tech based right now, and a lot of the products and services that we have, like to use a ledger, for example, is not easy. It's not. Some people may say, and I get called stupid and all kinds of stuff for saying this, but using like a ledger or using, any of the tech that we have or wallets, sometimes it could be pretty complex to use it. And even copying and pasting that long address to send, like, let's say I want to send you a Bitcoin, to copying and pasting and sending that over, that can be a little scary. And for somebody that's not tech savvy, they're not going to do it. Like my mom, she would never do that ever. She'll write you a check. and then also too, like you mentioned with the Bitcoin maximalists, I have friends that are Bitcoin maximalists, but they are very toxic, like you said. And there's a lot of people in the community outside of maximalists as well, that if you ask a tech question, you're like, oh, hey, what about this? I'm curious about this. They're like, you're an idiot. Like the way the community is set up, they will make you feel they're not always very inviting sometimes. And I think that's another hurdle that we have. And like you said, with the anonymity, a lot of people are not doxxed, and it can make it a little uneasy for somebody else. Because if you go and you look at, top 10 companies in America, everybody, like all the CEOs, all the presidents and VPs, everybody's has their face out there. You can, they've got LinkedIn, you can see who they are. But when you're dealing with a project and you have these people that don't have their face out there, they're going by like a Bart Simpson avatar or something, it can be kind of weird for somebody that is a normie. I talk to my girlfriends and my friends about this all the time, and they're just like, you're so weird for like being so trusting and being in the space. They're like, I couldn't do it.
I'm not trusting at all. But I do talk to a lot of retailers, because the nature of our project, we're very marketing focused. We're trying to solve a problem, a very specific problem in a very, very narrow vertical market. And before we ever started coding, we went and talked to retailers that were having a problem with current online payment systems and bank accounts and banking and things. And so we asked them what they needed. What were the problems they were experiencing before we ever coded. And I think that's one of the differences with Tusk versus a lot of other projects, is we're not developer led. We're not an engineer led project. We're entrepreneur led. And to me, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and I am one of the co-founders. But as an entrepreneur for a long time, I know, because I've had failures, I've had successes, is that I will never build a company unless I have a customer already. And then you build basically you build the company to solve that customer's problem. And I just kind of applied that kind of logic for building out a decentralized project, is how do you build a project that solves a problem? You go talk to your customers first. And I know a lot of people say they're users, and I'm like, I think of people as customers, whether they're an internal customer, external customer. I don't think of them as users, because I think it changes your thinking about it when you're like, these are customers. Are these people willing to pay you to use your project, or pay to use your project in some way? That's a customer, not a user. A user could be anybody. And to me, I wanted to know what the users thought. And then that's how I view it. And when I go talk to users, they have a lot of concerns. And believe it or not, volatility has not been the major concern for the people that have a recognized problem with banking.
Really?
No. Because think about it, nobody's really using crypto for buying and selling goods and services anywhere yet, no project. And the main things that they're talking about is it legal and the scams. Those are the things. And I think it goes back to the Bitcoin maximalist thing too, right? Say you're a retailer. Now, I used to actually own a brick and mortar retail store too along the way. And if you don't know anything about Bitcoin or you don't know anything about crypto and you're thinking, hey, you know, this might solve my problem or I'm interested in this technology and you want to learn about it, well, there's no 800 number to call, right?
Right.
And so where you're going to go? You're going to go to social media, you're going to go to forums. And now you're faced with, oh, I've heard about this Bitcoin thing, but there's about a dozen of those Bitcoin things out here now. Which one's which? And then you go ask a question, well, which Bitcoin should I look at? And then, oh, you're just going to, you're going to unleash the wrath of hell.
Right.
And to me, that maximalist mindset, I think, is detrimental to adoption.
No, I agree, because like I don't come from a tech background. I come from more of a healthcare background and more of a people background. That was part of my job. What I did is I worked with people to kind of problem solve. They used to come into the pharmacy and would say, I need this, or I need this. And I would kind of help them navigate and figure it out. And no question is a stupid question. And especially when you're dealing with tech, when you're dealing with these complex ideas, just how Bitcoin works in general, it can be complex and kind of like, I had saw an old friend. My husband and I went out to get Italian the other night, and when I saw this old girlfriend of mine that I grew up with, and she's like, "Are you still in that Bitcoin thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still in that Bitcoin thing." I was like, I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm in beauty and blah blah blah." And I was trying to explain to her what it was, and it just went over her head. And she's like, "Well, you make money?" And she's like, "How do you make money?" I was like, there's different ways you can make money. You can invest, you can trade, you can use it, it's basically money, but with no Fed or with no bank. And she's like, "Oh, that's too much." She's like, "I just want cash." And I was like, okay.
It's kind of funny at the holidays. We don't talk about money with our family. It's just not a topic on, part of our family. They don't talk about money. And so I don't even push it on them. Like it's amazing to me, even with the holidays, just past the, last week, is that how many people are like, I'm giving crypto to everybody in my family. I'm like, that's awful.
Yeah, don't.
Why would
if you want to get divorced, you will give your wife Bitcoin.
But the thing is, it's like, one, I'm a big believer that gift giving should be about giving something that means something to the receiver, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about you forcing your weird political ideologies and economic ideologies on the other people. And it's very intangible. I just think it's a horrible gift. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't appreciate and value at some point. That's not what I'm saying, but I think it's horrible gift giving etiquette to give something that no one's interested in, that no one wants, that may not turn into anything. What if you give someone something like, something that loses value, right? That's just not very fun.
Well, I mean, if it's something you're very passionate about, like get somebody, spend half on Bitcoin and half on like a teddy bear or something that they want, But I mean, for us at our, like in my household, my husband and I talk about it. I'm more into it than he is, because he's busy with his, with his job, with his company and whatnot. But it's like when we dumped down to like 3K, I started DCAing in from like 6K to 3K. And I took my daughter's savings. I had a couple thousand in in her savings account. I took it and I bought a Bitcoin, and it's put away safely at the bottom of Mount Sinai, wherever that is. Just kidding. But I have, I went ahead and have that for her, and I'm going to hold on to it for the next, she's 3 now. So for the next 15 years. And then if it appreciates in value, great. If not, that's fine. But, we're still doing other things for her as well, as far as, saving and putting away if she does decide she wants to go to college or whatever it is that she wants to do.
I think that's sound. And we have 4 kids, and all my kids, we've been teaching financial literacy to from the time they were born. So for instance, anytime any of my kids get any kind of gift in money or any kind of work, we don't really give allowance, but they all work and get paid for tasks and things. And a couple of them have jobs now. And we make them save half of whatever they make regardless. And then we go and invest it. And each of my kid has in their savings accounts, precious metals, and crypto.
Nice.
And we go and pick those things out together and have them look at things. So even my 9-year-old has a portfolio. It's kind of funny. It's not a big one, but it's good enough for most, compared to most 9-year-olds. Yeah. But to me, I think instilling those habits from the time the kids are really young is important. And the most thing I can tell people, and we stress this with our kids, is stay out of debt. And don't get into it in the first place. Don't get into student loan debt if you don't have to, and then save. And I think if we just told our kids to do that, stay out of debt, and then save money. And if you can raise your kids with those 2 things, they're way ahead of like 90% of the population right now.
Oh, I agree. My husband, he was married before he and I got together. So he has 2 kids from a previous marriage. He's a bit older than me, so the boys are bigger. But, you know, it was kind of hard because his ex-wife, she was very into spending and very into like new cars and this and that and being into debt. So when the kids would come stay with us and they would want like a new pair of Beats or a new pair of this and that, I'm like, well, you got to work for it. They're like, oh, well, I'm just going to be here for a weekend. I can't work for it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to buy you these things. If you want headphones, we go to the dollar store, we can go whatever. And so the oldest is not good at saving and has already gotten himself into debt. No matter, we've bought him books, we've tried to sit and talk to him, all kinds of stuff. So with that kid, it didn't work. But with my other stepson, the younger one, he's not in debt at all. And he's really good at saving and managing his money. So it's hard with your kids when you've got all these different personalities. And, you know, when you come from, you know, a split household, it's hard when one parent does things one way and the other parent does things another way. And it can be complicated. But with our daughter, we talked to her about saving. We talked to her about charity. Like for this Christmas, she's 3, and I explained to her that there's kids and there's babies that they don't have toys, they don't have things. So I made her go into her room and I made her pick a toy out that she no longer wanted to play with. And I explained to her, we're going to give this to a kid that has no toys for Christmas. So she went and picked a baby doll and we went and donated it. So we're trying to instill those things into her now. So that she gets it. And so she grows up and has an idea, like, you know, what's right and wrong and, you know, the importance of giving back as well.
I think that's really good parenting, to be honest. And I think what you just explained is a great example. The fact is that we learn habits from our families, whether they're good or bad. Mm-hmm. And I would say I grew up from financially illiterate parents. So I grew up and I was bad with my money. Even when I got married, I was the spender. I'm the spender too. Like I lie, you know, and it took me a long time to like get over that and learn better money management. My wife, on the other hand, doesn't ever spend money. It's ridiculous. And it's funny. We came to a couple of agreements on how we handle our own personal finances, and it actually saved our marriage when we finally came to some agreements on how we deal with money. And it's interesting, like the rate of divorce in this country, a lot of it's driven by just financial stress. And a part of it is that people don't have general agreements on how they operate with one another. I think families are essentially businesses and they're partnerships. So you got to think of it in terms of like a real business partnership. Like, how do you make decisions? What do you do if there's an impasse on a decision? And I think if people would spend a little more time now before getting married, trying to figure that all out, before they get married, how you're going to raise your kids, you're going to do religion, how you're going to handle money. If people would just figure that stuff out, we'd have a far lower divorce rate, I think, in this country.
I totally agree with that. So my husband and I want to say we dated like 5 years before we got married, and we lived together first. I know some people do frown upon that, and that's fine, but that is what we decided to do because there was no way in hell I was going to marry somebody that I didn't actually live with. And it took a while for us to kind of start to agree on things because he grew up with no financial literacy at all. He grew up very poor as well. And it was just, you know, if you spend money to make more money. And he had all these weird, like sayings and things. And I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. So we, you know, for the most part, politically, we agree on a lot of things. And money-wise, the way we dealt with it is we just keep, and they might think this is crazy, but we keep our money separate. And we talk about things that we want to save for, and we'll pitch in, and we have budgets and, you know, goals and stuff like that. But we just keep our money separate, and we both spend X amount of dollars a week on, you know, whatever we want, just as long as, you know, we have money allocated for bills and all that stuff. But we try to keep our things separate, and that's what works for us. And some people may say that's crazy, that's not a marriage. But, you know, at the end of the day, you have to be you got to get along with the person that you're married to. I don't necessarily believe in divorce. And, you know, sometimes you do have to make concessions, and you have to negotiate, and you have to kind of compromise with people. So we've been doing that, and we haven't had any problems, and we were able to buy a house. So it's working so far.
Well, that's good. I think the main thing is not that there's one rule or one way of doing things for everybody, but the fact is that you actually have an arrangement or an agreement on how things should be done. And I think most people spend more time trying to plan their wedding and plan their dress and all this other stuff, rather than spending that energy trying to figure out how they are going to manage their relationship. Right. And I think looking back, if I had to like do things over again, I would do more financial planning and things, and counseling and things like that, and get that stuff better under control on my side before I got married. And I think I would recommend, and I will recommend that to my children. And I think it's interesting because all my kids, like my oldest just turned 17, and she all our kids are homeschooled, so she's been able to work. I got her a job a couple of years ago with a friend of mine's company, and she's done a great, they love her to death, and she just sacks away her money. She's got a
Good.
ton of money in the bank, and she's well on track. She's a sophomore in college, at just turned 17 last week. So
Good for her.
um excuse me. So I think that success is that hard, really. It's just that we've lost our way, the way we're educating, I think, our families and our kids. I think somewhere in the last 40 years, we've lost something. Like we stopped figuring out, we threw away the things that worked.
Right.
And now everybody's just, I want to buy this. I want everything my way. I want it now, and when we lost I don't know, I'm getting off on a tangent, but it seems
No,
like
no.
we've lost a lot of ethics and a
And
lot of
values
values. Yeah,
and
I think that's it.
patience.
That's what I tell people. I tell my team that on the project, because we New Year's Day is our 2-year anniversary with our project.
Congratulations.
And it's funny, and I tell everybody in our group and our developer teams and stuff like that, and I tell everybody, look, don't expect anything. Like, we're not going to get rich overnight with this project. I go, before, don't even think we're going to get anywhere for another 2 years. I just say, just wait 2 more years, and let's just keep working at it, and we'll chip away at it. But it's going to take time. And I tell people that, and a lot of people, it's interesting, don't like to wait. Like, it's interesting. When we started our project originally 2 years ago, there were 6 of us. Of the original 6, there's only 3 of us left that
Oh
are even
boy.
involved. And really, no, there's actually only 2 of us that are actually active. So 3/4 of our team like bailed. It's kind of interesting, or 2/3 of our team bailed along the way, because they got impatient. They weren't interested. It was too much work. They didn't want to show up. And I said, well, I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm keep trucking away. And so it's just kind of interesting. So we ended up recruiting, before we built our blockchain, we ended up having to go through a full recruitment process, and like get a whole new team essentially that are actually actively working on it.
I don't know. With me, I just think that I appreciate the technology that we have in today's society, but I also don't think it's necessarily a good thing, because we're so used to having everything now. And I feel like it's kind of, or the same way with not necessarily you, but I feel like the same way with the most majority of people and their kids is like we go out to eat, and I see people, they give their kids tablets or cell phones at the dinner table out to eat. And I'm just like, to me, that's like crazy. I'm like, no, we don't do that in my house. But it's like, we make my daughter wait, we make her be patient, and, we talk to her about that. But I feel like everybody just wants everything now, and they don't want to save for it. I don't know if it's, they don't understand hard work or what it is, but like when I was growing up, I remember those Nokia block phones, those gifts came out, and I had a pager, and I was like, I want to have a cell phone like my friends, because my friends did. My mom's like, no, you have to get a job. And I'm like, okay. So I was 14, and I got a job at a pet store picking up animal poop. But I got a job, and I worked really, really hard, and I was able to buy a cell phone and a plan, one of those prepaid plans. So I remember that, but I also remember all my friends having all these, their parents would just buy them stuff all the time, and it was just like instantaneous. And I don't know, that's not how I grew up, and that's not how I want my child to be raised. I want her to understand that it's nice to get things, but it's even nicer, it's more rewarding when you work hard for them.
I agree more. Again, I think we're on track. We don't give our kids allowance. Our kids have to work for what they get. Our kids have to save. We limit screen time in our house. In fact, our oldest didn't get her own cell phone till she was full-time college student. And I figured, well, if you're a full-time college student going to college with adults, you can probably handle a phone. But we said we reserve the right to snoop through any of your stuff at any time. We still don't really allow social media for any of our kids. And then for the younger 3, we have a checkout cell phone, because our kids go 17, 14, 12, 9. And then the bottom 3 share a checkout phone.
That's a good idea.
And it's interesting is we just got this one we just got a new one for this purpose, but it's from Gab Wireless, and it's a completely locked down smartphone. So you can't send pictures. There's no internet browser.
Good.
It only allows non-picture text messages. It has a calculator and phone calls.
Okay.
And to us, that felt a lot safer. In fact, I interviewed the CEO or the vice president of Gab Wireless a few months back. And it's actually been a really good phone. I'm not getting anything for it. There's no referral or affiliate thing, but
You scammer, you.
exactly.
I'm
I wish there was an affiliate thing, because I actually like that product because I'm really using it. But I actually know one of the guys who runs the company, and so he gave me a good deal. But I found with that, I feel safer. And so, but we also homeschool our kids. So we're very non-traditional, but think about what's normal in in the United States today, right? It's we're overweight, and I'm guilty of that myself. We're in debt, and we're miserable. That's where, and we don't have close families. That's what normal is now. If you look at the numbers, the statistics, everybody's in debt, they're overweight, they're miserable. And to me, you got to want something different, and you have to train your kids differently if you want them to be different than that.
No, I totally agree. And that's why, like, raising, well, I can say 4, because we had my cousin come live with us when she was 16. She got in a lot of trouble. So she came to live with us, and we got her to graduate high school, because she didn't graduate prior, and where I was really, really strict with her, but she needed it, and she graduated and went to do whatever it is she's doing. But when you're raising kids, and the hard thing for us was co-parenting with their mom and, you know, the new husband and stuff, because we all had different ideas of what was right and what was acceptable and whatnot. But with our daughter, it's a little bit easier because, you know, my husband and I, we live together and we have a lot of the same ideologies. Like we do the same thing. We have tablet time. Like when I wake up first thing in the morning, is I'm on my phone because I have work to do. I do a lot of different marketing and consulting in crypto. And I've got companies that need things and people that need things from me. So I got to be on my phone. So like the first half hour, we both have our morning beverages, and my daughter gets her tablet and she can watch like YouTube videos of like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Willie Nelson. Those are her favorites. And she's right by me, so I can see what she's watching. And then she watches like Pepper the Pig and some like elf show that's on PBS or something, but she gets a minimal amount of time to, you know, watch stuff. So she gets morning time, and then when we get home in the evening to wind down, she'll get like another half hour there and whatnot. But we're pretty on her about it, because I don't want her to, she's got a lot of toys. She can use her toys and play make believe, or, you know, she wants to put on a Disney movie, let her put on a Disney movie, and I'll watch it with her. And we do a lot of reading and singing and playing instruments. My kids probably got every single instrument ever made in the history of the world. But there's other things besides social media and whatnot. And I'm kind of guilty because I am on social media a lot, but it's part of what I'm doing for work right now. I mean, I'm very thankful for Twitter and for YouTube and that stuff, but I do spend a lot of time on social media, and it's something that I am going to work on to cut down a bit.
Well, speaking about social media, recently we had this whole quote unquote crackdown on the crypto space. Were you impacted by any of that?
I was not, and I think it's because my channel is a lot smaller than a lot of these other guys. And what I think happened, YouTube was pushing really hard their COPA, it's COPPA, and it's basically the child protection law. And I think some of the people that, I think their algorithm got screwed up with the COPA law that got changed, because YouTube is always changing their algorithm, and it just makes it harder for small content creators like myself. But I feel like some of the people got caught up in that. I feel like, and YouTube did come out, they did say that there was an error with it, but my channel was not hit. I am thinking either because it's very small and I've complied with all the COPA standards. I have all my videos set to not suitable for minors, just to be on the safe side. And I also do have legal disclaimers written by an attorney that kind of disclose everything. Like if I do sponsored content, I disclose that, and I've got all kinds of fun disclaimers, just in case, to comply with the SEC and also to comply with the FTC. So it's fun.
Well, that's good. It's interesting. And I think that's another one of those things where I think you're probably way ahead of a lot of people, because there are a lot of influencers that don't disclose that they're, sponsored content or they're getting paid for pitching. And I think that was really frustrating for us in the beginning, even 2 years ago as a project, that I know a lot about the blogging world, and the FTC, 10 years ago was really cracked down on social media gurus and the social media world and bloggers. That's where that kind of came out of, actually, because so many people were doing quote unquote paid reviews, but not revealing that. Then, the FTC cracked down on that, but it didn't make it over to the crypto world in the beginning, at least. And so it's good that people admit that. And that way, to me, I think, the undisclosed influencers, the problem with that is that they're giving advice and they're not disclosing their conflict of interest. And so then the average person who may not be very technologically savvy or not very entrepreneurial, so they can assess risk themselves very well, they're relying on those people. And the problem is you can't make good decisions if you don't have good information. And so I kind of mixed on that one personally, because I don't like seeing people getting ripped off because people are taking advantage of them. And I see, unfortunately, if the crypto world doesn't regulate itself and call that out in its own ranks, that the government's going to do it for us. And that's not going to be pleasant.
I totally agree with you. And that's why when I first got approached to do sponsored stuff, I had no idea that was the thing in crypto. I just started doing like local meetups and stuff. I've done over 4 dozen free meetups for the community, for networking different things. And I kind of branched out into doing paid events for different companies. But as far as like when I first got my first sponsored thing, I made sure that it was sponsored. And I take a little bit of a different approach from other influencers. I actually, like when I do a project review, I make sure to say that it's either sponsored in the beginning, or if not, it's down in the disclaimer. And one of the things I tell companies is I only take like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I don't like to take their native tokens. And the reason why I don't like to take their native tokens is because that gives me kind of, that may make me biased as to the project. And I don't want to just give me Bitcoin or Ethereum, give me something that's not related to the project, so that when I'm talking about it, it's not really going to change my opinion of it. It's going to be the same. And I do my best to stay unbiased, but one thing I don't do that I see other people do, this is going to be the next 10 times, this is going to do this is going to do, X, Y, and Z. And that's not okay. Like my sponsored reviews are, this is what the project is, this is what it does. If you want to find out more here, it's sponsored, and this is how much I was paid, and this is what I was paid in. So I'm very strict and stern about, some of the projects that I do take. But I do also understand a lot of these projects, they're entrepreneurs, and they're trying to market, and they're trying to get their project out there. So I get it. But at the same time, I won't take everybody, and everything is disclosed. I've got a disclaimer on my website, and, because I got to eat too. If people want me, want my time for stuff, then I'm willing to give it. But I do deserve to be paid for my time. But at the end of the day, I do have standards that I do hold, and I'll never chart your coin for money. So don't ask me, not you, but just in general.
I'm not asking.
I know, but I've had companies approach me like, chart our coin, we'll pay you. I'm like, no, if you guys want, like a sponsored tweet, then I have to put ad, or I have to put something, whatever. And then everything's always disclosed on my YouTube, because most of the stuff I talk about are sponsored. It goes on my YouTube, and I've got the disclaimer, and I said what I was paid for, if it was a tweet or if it was this or that, and I kind of pull it up on my channel. So everybody's clear as to what I'm doing.
Well, I think that I have a lot of respect for that. And I don't try to monetize the podcast at all. And I've always been upfront. I actually started the podcast because I got sick of influencers wanted to charge me. And so that's what I said, I'm going to do this. But how I am benefiting from this is, one, I like the networking because I like to talk to cool people. But two, I put an ad for Tusk in front of the show. And that's how I monetize it. But it's interesting. I've had a lot of people approach me because I got a lot of Twitter followers now, and I have had them actually for a long time. But I've had a lot of followers on Twitter, so people have approached me on a regular basis wanting to basically pay me to pitch something. And I said, I'm not taking money to pitch your stuff. How about you pitch me on whether your idea is good or your project's interesting? Because I talk to people for free. You don't have to just pitch me, right? And it's funny because they don't even want to do the work of giving me a pitch. They just want to pay me. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to save you money. Just tell me something cool that you're doing. Because I interview people that are in projects that, they may consider they're a competitor technically, but, I love the Verge community. I think the DGB community is really active. And to me, I like to talk about those guys, and I like to see what they're doing. And to me, it's just kind of funny because I'm like, I'm not even charging. Just tell me you want to come on the show, But I understand it, but that's not how I'm trying to monetize this. but I think it's good that you're pointing that out. So you do the charting, the TNA, and I'll be straight up. I am totally TA dumb. I don't know a darn thing about it. Tell me about what it is, because it looks like tea leaves and voodoo to me. And how did you learn it?
Okay, so really quick before I get into that, one of the things I do when I'm vetting a company, I ask them to give me 2 to 3 sentences summarizing the project, their favorite things about it. And
Right.
I can tell if it's authentic or if it's not authentic. And it kind of helps me determine if I want to go forward and continue to research it. Because if you can't give me 2 to 3 sentences, I just don't want to touch it. But so with TA, so when I first got into crypto, I before I got into crypto, I wanted to kind of get involved with stocks. And I looked into it, and I went into like a TD Ameritrade, and I was like, oh, can I invest here? They're like, yeah, you need the minimum deposit is $25,000. And I was like, I don't have 25,000. I don't know if it was them. It was someone. I was like, I don't have $25,000. So I was like, okay, I'm out of here. And then I tried to read and do it on myself, because I do have I've got a little tiny math degree. I've taken like over 9 math classes. So I went to go ahead and start teaching myself about stocks. I couldn't figure it out. So I was like, okay, I'm an idiot. But then when I got into crypto, I saw people posting charts and stuff on Twitter. I was like, I can do this. I can draw a line. So then I went on eBay. I bought 2 used books, The Idiot's Guide to Technical Analysis and The Candlesticks Charting for Dummies, or something like that. So I went ahead and I bought that. And I just like how I would study with my math homework, I would do the same with TA. I started charting Bitcoin every day and using some of the methods out of, those silly little books I got. So I just learned that way. But it was, with technical analysis, it's a lot of repetition. It's like the same thing every day. If you're going to solve a math problem, let's say you're going to take a derivative, you have to do the same thing. You have to look for specific things in the project or in the math problem. And you take what you need to take out, and then you just set it up the same way that you would. And it's repetitions, the same thing over and over and over and over again. And that's kind of the same thing with technical analysis, is you look for a couple things. There's some analysis that they look for like 3 things, that they can have confluence between like 3 to 5 things in their chart. They'll go ahead and take the trade. And it's kind of similar with math. It's just doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So you're not going to say, I'm going to do a backwards flip penguin ollie and then I'm going to buy it? Is that how it works?
No. I don't do tarot cards and all that stuff. We can have that topic a different day. We can discuss that topic a different day. But it's well, the cool thing about a lot of these indicators, it's a lot. They're all math backed or based off math, like moving averages. It's based, some regular moving average, depending on what the length of your ribbon or whatever is. And with the RSI and MACD and Bollinger Bands, they're all based on math stuff. So math is pretty accurate, in my opinion. But it's just, but the hard part with trading is emotions, and taking your emotions outside of what the market is doing. Because when you're betting with your own money, you obviously want to win a trade. And sometimes once you get emotions and human psychology in there, it can really mess you up. So you got to be really careful. And if you're able to take those things out, you will do pretty well.
How accurate do you think TA is, or how accurate have you been in your own personal charting?
I think the best month I had was I won like 80% of my trades when I was trading pretty heavy. I'm trading a little bit less now, just because my schedule is so hectic with like work stuff and with content and with my baby and with school. So I am trading a little bit less. I'll do anywhere between like 4 to 6 trades a month. But when I was trading like almost daily, I did pretty well. But I was also just focused on just trading and not anything else.
I got really lucky. My wife and I did, when we were first getting in and learning about projects. And I made a lot of money in all things TRX, and it was completely by accident. And I joke, we bought it at 1/2 cent and sold it at 15 cents, and
Nice.
we made a lot of money. And the reason we sold it at the time is that we watched an announcement, and I said to my wife, I go, sell whatever we have in that now. She's like, why? I go, if you met that clown at a party, would you give him $50 for his business? She's like, not a chance in hell. I go, sell it now. And it was really funny because it tanked after that.
Yeah.
It was just really funny. So that's my best trade ever with crypto.
Some people are able to trade like with their gut feelings. Like I know some long-term OGs, and that's what they've done, is like they'll buy and they'll hodl, and they'll do that. One of the other strategies that I do is I do enjoy margin trading. And one of the reasons why I like trading is it challenges me mentally. as with discipline and all that stuff. But I also, what I'll do is I use bigger amounts and I spot trade. So I'll go ahead and buy Bitcoin at X amount. When it's dumping, I'll set like a bunch of bids, and then I'll try to get dumped on, get all my bids filled. And then I'll go ahead and hold it for a longer period of time and flip it later, but without using leverage or anything. And that's a little bit more easy to do, and it's less taxing mentally.
So how much training do you think the average person would have to do, starting like you did from nothing, reading a book, before they should probably be competent enough to make some of these trades? How long, what's that learning curve look like?
So with me, I started trading right away. And I kind of picked it up pretty fast. But then, if you're stressed out, or if you're tired, or if you're hungry, if you've got other emotions and things going on, then if you're not dedicating 100% of your time to trading, it can be a little bit hard. But each person is different. They say that you become an expert after 10,000 hours. I believe there's a book titled that. I don't know who it was by, and I did not read it. I know about it though.
It's Malcolm Gladwell. Who wrote that?
Yeah. I learned something. But yeah, I had a client that recommended to me, and I never got a chance to read it, which I need to. One of the things I'm going to do is when I'm done with school, reading all that boring college stuff, I'm going to go ahead and get my read on and start reading more stuff. But really, every person, it depends. Every person it's different. But there's some cool platforms that you can paper trade on without having to invest your own money, and kind of teachers, essentially kind of learn that way and kind of test the waters out. So that's a cool thing. I always recommend that people go do and, try for themselves before jumping in there and risking money. And always, never invest with more than you're able to lose. And paper trade, you can go ahead and you can chart a project. You can write down your entry, exit, your stop, or whatever it is. Take a step back, watch it play out, and kind of record your trades that way too.
Is there a good system that you can backwards test as well to see if you would have done something, how it would have worked?
As far as, you can go back and see, if I would have done this would have happened. That's kind of the cool thing with charts, is because it's got all that data on there. So you can go back and see, like, okay, I took this trade on December 14th and I went long, but in fact the market dumped. And then you can, in your trading journal, some people set them up differently, but you can write down, why you took this trade. Was your MACD bullish? Was your RSI bullish? Like, were there three items that had confluence? Like, what was the market sentiment? You can write down notes and different things, and then kind of go back and look at it and see what actually happened and how close you are, or what you did wrong.
Wow. This seems like a lot of work.
It is, but I enjoy it, and there's people that enjoy it. And if you're good at it, you can make a lot of money.
I'll have to wait on that. It sounds like gambling to me. I'm very conservative. It's kind of funny. Everybody jokes around. I've never sold any of my own tokens from 2 years ago with our project. Never sold any of them. So I'm just kind of a lazy holder, but I believe in what I'm doing. So I think the longer I hold, the better off I'll be long-term. But we're almost out of time. It's been a while. This has gone really fast.
It has.
Well, that's a good thing. Where can people find out more about you and your charting and all your content creation?
So I do a lot of different things. I have my website. I do marketing. I do consulting. I've got YouTube. I do events for crypto companies. And if you're a non-crypto company, I can take you as well. Do a lot of different things, but all my handles are at at Crypto Wendy. My website is cryptowendy.com. YouTube is Crypto Wendy. If somebody reaches out to you on Telegram and asks you for money or something like that, and they're claiming they're me, I will never ask you for money. I do not have a paid group. I will never have a paid group. I literally will never ask any of you guys for money. I may ask you for a slice of pizza or a burrito with guacamole, but other than that, I won't ask you anything.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I've had a great time today, and you have a great day.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you for listening to the Rob McNealy program. Make sure you check us out on the web at robmcnealy.com and subscribe to our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, and on the Google Play Store.